Great. Please state and spell your full name.
Well, my full name is Edward Harper. Actually, it's Wayne Edward Harper, but I go by Ed Harper. And it's spelled E-D, then H-A-R-P-E-R, Harper.
Ed, when did you first join the Western Field Ornithologists?
I kind of merged into it because formerly I was a member of Central West California Field Ornithologists, CFO, and it merged into becoming Western Field Ornithologist, WFO, and that was 1973.
Okay. Why did you join Western Field Ornithologies?
Well, I've been interested in birds since I was 6 years of age, and when I came to California from Montana for a teaching job, I saw the birds here and became really excited about birding. I had been more of a casual birder in Montana, but I really started planning my days around birding. And so I thought, well, I was a member of ABA at one time when that was starting, American Birding Association, and then Western Field Ornithologists. I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of, like John Dunn and Kimball Garrett and all these people already. They were just young kids, but they're already getting to be well known, and I thought, hey, let's join this organization. It's got a good publication. They do a lot of neat things, and if you're going to be a serious birder, it's a good organization to belong to. They do great things.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna take this right here. Yeah, you're good right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
All right?
So you mentioned that you became a birder when you were 6.
Correct.
What inspired you?
Well, when I was 6, my Aunt Lucille gave me a book called Little Killdeer. And even though I was 6 years old, I was already kind of reading a bit, and I could read this book. And living on a ranch south of Livingston, Montana, I was in contact with lots of birds and also the killdeer. But the story of the killdeer, going from a little egg to a young chick to a full adult, kind of mirrored my life. As a young child, I could see growing up and being an adult like this killdeer was. And it's just such a enigmatic bird. They fly around at night. They do all kinds of interesting things, guard their nest, all this, the displays they do. It's a great bird. So, and it's easy to recognize. And so when you're a young kid, it's one of the first birds you can learn, like killdeers, red-winged blackbirds. Those are all easy to begin with. Crows, pheasants, all that stuff. And things like Savannah sparrows and brewer sparrows were a little more difficult at that age. But the big birds, I knew all the red-tailed hawks and things like that. Eagles. Nice. It was great.
So when was the concept of the bird ID panel formulated? How did that come about?
It started pretty much with the Central Valley Birding Symposium that's held every year in Stockton. And David Yee kind of got me interested in doing something like that for Bird ID, and I was already known for taking quite a few photos, and in those days it was all slides. And people somehow persevered and looked at my slides when they were showing up. But it started growing from that, and I kind of refined it a little bit to a recipe that seems to work pretty well now. People seem to enjoy it. That makes me happy. And it's always, the ID panel is always supposed to be a learning experience for people. I don't go for let's dump the jumps type of thing. I don't want to embarrass people necessarily. But the way I do it, of course, is to start with usually groups of 5, like maybe 5 birds of prey or 5 shorebirds, something like that. And I will start with one that's pretty easy so that there's a little joy for everybody. They can, oh, I see that. But even though it's an easy bird, sometimes you start talking about status and distribution, you talk about molt, you talk about a lot of things that, even though it's an easy bird, people start learning more things about it. And then supposedly it gets a little more difficult until you get to bird number 5. And that's when the panel starts looking at each other. John Dunn says, you don't want to go that way when someone thinks like it's such and such a bird. And but they hash it out, and then the audience is coming along, and I always ask the panel not to blurt out the name of the bird at the beginning. So it gives the panel people time to, reflect on the bird, think what they feel it to be, and then how do you go about identifying this bird? Because you don't know the time of year, you don't know the habitat it's in, so photographs can be very difficult. If you don't know the status and distribution, those things, it can be a challenge, even for a warbler that's not that uncommon. But where are you? Are you in Washington State? Are you down in Arizona? Where is this bird and all that? And a lot of people, like, if you're listening for thrashers, for example, I always kind of know the habitat I'm in and whether it'll be a California thrasher or a Laclan's thrasher or sage thrasher, these things. I rely on status and distribution a lot. But with the images that I show on the screen, they don't know where they're standing. And it can be pretty challenging sometimes. What kind of thrasher is this now? Because you don't have all the little other clues. So it works out pretty well.
When did you first host the first bird ID at a WFO conference? Do you remember?
That was probably over 20 years ago. I imagine I started shooting digital in November of 2005, and that was at a Central Valley Birding Symposium. And I had shown a few images before, I think, to WFO then. So it's been probably a good 20 years that I've been doing this. So they haven't thrown me out yet, but we'll see.
How much time does it take you to put together the bird ID?
Well, I have to spend months. I have to go out and take pictures of birds. So I'm always out, and now and then I'll say, that's going to be a good quiz bird, the way the bird's head is posed or things like that. And I go through. So I have well over 1,000 images that I can draw from for warblers and shorebirds and raptors and flycatchers and sparrows and all these things. And it's kind of fun putting it together. And then I agonize over this for quite a while, and I ask people, what do you think about the order 1 through 5? And I get some suggestions and let my wife look at it and so forth. Says, don't use that, use this one, all that. And it comes together. So it slowly evolves. I don't do it just overnight. I do it over a period of time. And by doing it over a period of time, I have a chance to think about it a little bit. It's like when you write something, you go back and you read it a couple of days later, you say, I'm going to change the order of some of the things I said here. And the same thing with putting together the images. So I hope I'm all through. I have to do it tomorrow, and I think it's all done. It's on PowerPoint and all that stuff. I don't want to change it now, but I think it's ready to go.
So I know you mentioned that you don't want to stump people, but do you remember a time where it was a really difficult bird and you really did stump the panel?
Yeah, that was fairly recently. I had an image of Redoodle raptors, and number 5 came out to be a bird that the panel looked at, and they were going back and forth on it, and nobody got it on the panel. And when I told them it was a 1-year-old Swainson's hawk, they were kind of surprised. And then John Dunn was staying at my home at the time, and I said, later on, I says, John, it really was a Swainson's hawk. Here are some other images I took. And I took it down in Texas, down in San Antonio, Texas. Strangely enough, in the month of January, they should be maybe down in South America by then, but it turned out it was in, it's not, they don't pronounce it Bexar, I think it's Bear or something like that, a county in Texas there. And so I went to eBird and took the date that I had, and I saw all these other images of this same bird. It was a bird that everybody had been, focusing on because it was a rarity, and it really confirmed the fact that I really know that was a was a Swainson's hawk, and just a difficult bird to identify. It was the first year, and people just didn't see it. And then I pointed out, notice that the primaries are a little bit beyond the tip of the tail. Oh yeah, didn't see that, and so I think I got through that. But so that was the only one I can think that they really failed on and made me think, did I really do this wrong? Because it's a great committee when you have some of the personalities that I, can have cajoled to be on that committee. It's fun.
Yeah, so maybe speak to some of the personalities that you have had on the panels over the years.
I've had some great panel members. John Dunn has always volunteered to be on it, and John is such a historian, and he knows all the facts, and he can tell you what particular subspecies things are, and he's just an encyclopedia of information about birds and distributions and times and events. And it's always fun when John's on the panel because he says, I think Ed probably took this one in Montana, probably looks like about September. I bet he was up around Westby, Montana. Nailed it. You know, that sort of thing. He's good. But Kimball Garrett's been on it a lot. Kimball's, you know, a great scientist. He really works with the birds a lot in the museum and stuff, so he's terrific to have. I've had Keith Hansen on it before. Keith is an artist that knows the very intricate details of a bird's plumage. He can identify a particular feather on a bird because he's worked with them so much in drawing, and that helps. I've had, I'm trying to think of so many other people that have been on it. I've had some women that have been a fantastic job. I remember Janine Finnegan was on it for a while, and then Christy Nelson has done it, and Christy is just fantastic on it. I've had a lot of nice people, but I often get kind of the same group. Like Joe Moreland's going to be on it again this time, and Joe, having instructed in ornithology classes for so many years, he has a great voice, and he can go right to the point, the issues about the bird, and describe it in good detail, and everybody can hear him, and it's great. Peter Pyle has been on the committee before, and when Peter's on it, the program runs a little long because he goes through a lot of the plumages, but he is terrific. Nobody in the United States knows more than Peter Pyle about plumages, and so it's always an honor to have him serve on the committee. So I've had a lot of great people like that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to kind of change tack here a little bit. Why should a bird enthusiast join Western Field Ornithologists?
Well, first of all, just think about this conference. These conferences are terrific. I've gone to American Birding Association meetings before and lots of other things, and few things compare to the quality of the WFO conferences. When they read the papers, I always learn something from that. It draws in some terrific people. They have great field trips. They've got a fine magazine that's peer-reviewed, that is on the cutting edge of ornithology. I think that they are really good spokesmen for the birds as such. I think a few people, when they see the name WFO ornithologist, I'm just a birder, I'm not an ornithologist. But then once they come to these meetings, they find out, oh my gosh, I don't have to be a professional. I can learn a lot of things just by going to these meetings. I meet all these neat people, go on these field trips with these distinguished leaders. It's well worth my time to do it, and that's why so many of these people that come there, they say they're novice birders, but they really enjoy the conference. They say they learn a lot. So that's why I like WFO.
Good, some water.
Okay.
A lot of talking.
Good. What advice do you have to budding young ornithologists?
Well, first of all, join some sort of club or organization so that you can associate with people that will kind of help guide you through this, so it's not so overwhelming at first. You can learn from people what kind of equipment is useful, what kind of binoculars to buy, good field guides, introduce them to things like Merlin. That's a very helpful aid. So you kind of take them under your wing, and I think a lot of the local Audubon societies are terrific for doing this thing. Bird clubs are terrific for it. So I would say, to help a young birder, give them a little bit of encouragement. When I first have a field trip, I've done a lot of classes with young or intermediate birders. It's nice to go out and show them some of these easy to see birds like gray blue herons and great egrets and the hawks and so forth. They get pretty excited about that. And then when they see something like a vermilion flycatcher, something like that, or a western bluebird, they start really liking the birds. So don't wear them out at the beginning on talking about, well, this is an immature white-crowned sparrow. It looks like it's a Gamble's race that we have right here, and go on. And you'll soon lose them on that, I think. So you have to just kind of know where they are and give them encouragement and just a little bit of helpful guidance about it, and the birds will do the rest.
Did you have a particular mentee when you came into the WFO fold, or was there anyone that helped guide your kind of career?
Well, I've been influenced by a lot of the people in WFO, for sure, to go out and bird with. I do a lot of birding with John Dunn, for example, and I'm always learning from John. I've birded with Peter Pyle in the past. I've birded with people like trying to think of Don Roberson. Don is not a member of WFO, I don't think, but I've birded with him a bit in the past, and I've had a lot of friends in the past, like W. Love Shearwater, doing pelagics and things like that. So it's been nice to have a lot of people that have introduced me to some of the places to go birding, things like that. But on the other hand, I've been a mentor to a lot of other people, so that's what I really enjoy. A lot of my mentoring was actually back in Montana, where I had Dr. P.D. Scar, that was the birder of Montana in terms of publications, knowledge. I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from the local birders there in Bozeman, Montana. At first, I could name a lot of names, but almost all these people are gone now. But Cliff Davis was another professor at Montana State University. He taught me how to prepare bird specimens, things like that. So I had a lot of people that kind of smoothed the way for me, and in turns I try to smooth the way for other people that are just coming along. And I'm so happy to see so many young birders coming along. It's just so wonderful to see some of these young kids. They have great eyes, great ears. They learn fast. They never forget what you tell them. They're terrific to work with.
Do you have any favorite WFO story that you want to share with us?
Well, one thing that I kind of highlights my time when I was on the board was getting together the Billings conference in Billings, Montana. That was in 2015, and I picked the date of June for that. And normally WFO doesn't meet; these are a fall thing. But I picked June because I wanted them to experience the prairie and the birds of the prairie, short-billed or thick-billed, better say it right, thick-billed longspurs doing their display flight, chestnut-collar longspurs, Sprague's pipits high in the sky singing their songs, upland sandpipers, all these things that you find out in the prairies. And I picked Billings, Montana, after going around Montana to look at a number of sites. They had facilities, of course, which was very important, but they had a lot of diverse habitats. And we could go up into the Ozarka Mountains and find black rosy finches at high altitude. We could go and hit sagebrush to find greater sage grouse. We could go out into some of these other areas and find like sharp-tailed grouse, find bobolinks. We could find so many birds. There's a nice riparian area there at Billings along the Yellowstone River. So we had mountains, we had prairies, we had riparian, and all the field trips. And I was so lucky to have so many friends in Montana that would help co-lead these trips, because I had good leaders, but sometimes these leaders were not from Montana and didn't know exactly where to go and what obstacles might be in the way and so forth. So it all worked out very, very well, and people came back from that conference having seen a lot of birds and having really enjoyed Montana. And June was the time to do it because the birds were really active. Short-eared owls flying all over the place. It was fun.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I'll keep supporting WFO because I think it's a very worthwhile organization. I'm probably good for another year or two for doing the photo quizzes. When they want to kick me out, that's fine. I don't want to usurp that position from anybody that wants to do it, because it's kind of a fun job, really. I like doing it. I like sharing it with people. I like seeing people getting excited about it. I like the fact that they walk away from the Bird ID things happy and say it's a good event, and that's all I need for that. So it's good.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other things?
I really like Jake's question from the last fellow that we had about what would you like people,
Most important thing about WFO that you want everybody to know.
right?
Oh, okay.
What was this thing?
So the question is, if whoever's going to watch this video, what's the one thing that you want people to understand about WFO?
Well, the one thing I'd like people to know about WFO is that it's a caring organization, that you can go and feel very comfortable. You'll meet delightful people. You'll learn a lot by going to WFO. If you want to expand your knowledge about birds, WFO is the way to do it. And if you want to meet some wonderful people that you can interact with and engage with in all kinds of activities, WFO is the way to do it. So. It's a widespread organization throughout all the western states, and so I'm constantly working with people that here at this conference are coming down from Montana saying, can you give me some hints about what to do in Montana? Can you do this or do that? And so I help people that way too. But that's what I would say. It's just a very engaging, a very warm organization.
Thank you.
Great.
That was
Excellent. All right.
excellent. Fantastic job,
I'm on the roll.
yeah.